Hello, good morning still, and thank you for allowing me to present this way. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to come in person, and I appreciate being able to deliver this along with Kaitlyn, who is there. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself before we start our presentation. My name is Lisa Bernstein, and my background is actually in family law. I practiced family law with legal aid for many, many years. I've been there since 2003. I've devoted my majority of my career to serving low-income Ontarians. And over the more recent years, I worked in the policy world, general counsel's office, and now I do external relations for Legal Aid Ontario. Kaitlyn, do you want to say a few words about yourself?
Sure, Lisa, and we're just need a few more seconds. Yes, there we go. Okay, they were just getting our presentation up on the screen, Lisa. So, morning, everyone. My name's Kaitlyn McCabe. I am the Director General for Legal Aid's West District, and Legal Aid is organized to match the Ontario Court of Justice districts. So I'm responsible for everything from Owen Sound, Walkerton, Kitchener-Guelph, west to my hometown here in Windsor. Yes, thank you. So thank you very much for having both of us this morning. We are sorry about this sort of bifurcated technical aspect of it, but as I was mentioning, yes, poor Lisa was already on the airplane on the tarmac at Pearson, and due to a technical problem, they asked them to get off the plane and then couldn't get her here on time. So through the wonders of technology, and thank you very much to the plenary organizers, we really appreciate your assistance in terms of getting us connected this morning. So back to you, Lisa.
Thank you, Kaitlyn. So Kaitlyn and I, we thought deep and hard about what would be most interesting to, a group of people, coming out, we're sort of coming out of the pandemic still. And we thought, what could be more interesting than a little bit of a taste of sort of how it is to navigate Legal Aid Ontario in the post-LASA, in the LASA 2020 world. I practiced, as I said, family law for a long time. It took me a long time to familiarize myself with LASA in 1998, and I'm going to confess, I spent most of my time familiarizing myself with it when I worked on the project to draft the new legislation, and that's LASA 2020. So it's an interesting act. There's a lot, there's lots of changes from LASA 1998. We thought today we'd just give you a little overview, some information on some rule amendments and how we consult, some tariff reform, some initiatives, and a little bit about the external relations department that we have at Legal Aid Ontario. So overview of LASA 2020. Where's LASA 2020 located? You might think that's just an obvious question, but a lot of people don't really know. Where would you find it? You've got the Legal Aid Services Act, you've got the Legal Aid Services rules, and then under that live the LAO policies. And in order to find the Legal Aid Services Act, if you're navigating our website, we've done a little screenshot here in the presentation. Just, it may not be intuitive. We're always taking feedback about the best place to put documents that make things most easy to navigate on our website. So if you go under the heading of corporate, you'll find Legal Aid Services Act, you'll find our rules and policies, you'll find LASA 2020 glossary and other things, consultation registry and so on. But that's where you find it. And it's an interesting read. Take a look when you get a chance. LASA 2020, it was passed in, it came into law July 8th. Passed into law July 2020, but the date that it came into effect is forever etched in my mind. It was October 18th, 2021. That happens to be my husband's birthday, and the greatest gift he said I could give to him was to stop talking about LASA 2020. It's all I talked about for years throughout the whole pandemic. It's all I worked on, and he was like, "Oh, enough already, please." So I'll never forget the date. And it was a good one. So the way that the Act is sort of different is that we've tried to take a modern approach to administration and management of LAO, legal aid of legal aid in Ontario. And one of the key differences under LASA from LASA 98 is that LAO now has rule-making authority. We make the rules and provision to legal aid services, which is different. They used to be under regulation. So legal aid, not to fear, legal aid and the purpose of legal aid still continues to have a commitment to access to justice. We're independent, but accountable to the government of Ontario. We still set out in the Act what our provision of legal services are in different areas of law, criminal, family, refugee and immigration and mental health. And we, are mandated to provide high quality services to low-income Ontarios. And of course, there's always the foundational role of the private bar. So, in the next slide, that there's some key references. Just one that I wanted to highlight is Section 1 in LASA 2020, that the purpose of the Act is to facilitate the establishment of a flexible, sustainable legal aid system that will provide high-quality legal aid services throughout Ontario in a client-focused, accountable manner while ensuring value for money. So, it's critical. It's top of mind. It's what we think about every time we focus on how to improve, how to make changes to our systems, how to operationalize changes. So we're always thinking of those principles. Under the next slide, there's just a number of parts and different rules that we now have created. And that was really the focus of what we worked on, the team that worked on the project to create the new rules. We did carry over a number of things that were similar from the old Act, but we tried to make things a little more modernized, a little more concise. And, but you'll find those in the legal aid services rules. And so you'll find those under the Act. Sorry. I apologize. Sorry about that. So you've got under eligibility for legal services, under Part 3, there's roster management. Part 4, there's entity services. And then there's a number of parts critical. And I think what many of you would be interested are the schedules. And that's where the tariff is found under the legal aid services rules. The tariff is considered, they're part of the legislation. And so we'll talk more about that later, how we go about changing things. But it's critical to know that that exists as a part of the legislation. And when someone wants to change something to the tariff, they have to go through the process that exists for rule changing. The next slide, I'm going to let Kaitlyn sort of get into the details of it. So there are some changes, some key changes that Kaitlyn's going to take over and highlight that exist now in LASA 2020 that are different from LASA 98. So Kaitlyn, you can take it away.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. So as Lisa mentioned, under both LASA 1998 and LASA 2020, applicants need to meet both our financial and legal eligibility criteria to be able to receive services from us. And this is a basic framework that continues under LASA 2020, but with new rules and accompanying policies. To be eligible, an individual has to be both financially eligible, and there are criteria set out in the legislation, as well as how we calculate their income and their assets, and be legally eligible. So there are policies under the legislation for each area of law that we cover. Decisions related to eligibility are subject to review, and we have a department set up for that called the Eligibility Review Office. They can look at financial refusals that we have determined or financial issues. They can look at certificates that have been canceled because of financial issues or other issues, as well as policy refusals. Another important factor or aspect of LASA 2020 is our roster management. LAO's oversight of its private practice lawyers who provide legal aid services to legal aid clients is known as roster management. Our goals in terms of roster management are always ensuring that clients get high quality legal aid services, and that when there are concerns that arise, we have a way of addressing them. This department works with the directors across the province in the district offices to oversee the roster we have, which is approximately 5,000 lawyers in the province, which is obviously a significant number, and we appreciate you very much. And if it's fun, tell your friends. Because that is an issue that we are struggling with at the moment, is not enough lawyers being able to take legal aid. And so it is something that is a priority for the organization, and Lisa and I will talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. This slide does detail some of the aspects that we address through roster management. So things like conduct concerns, complaints by clients, and lack of compliance with our rules under LASA 2020. Another aspect of roster management is obviously the new name. Previously, under the prior legislation, we called it a panel. Now we call it a roster. And under the prior legislation, it set out how legal aid could impanel a lawyer, how we could remove lawyers, but it really didn't address many of the other aspects of panel membership. Now we have a dedicated department to ensure that our roster management, for example, is up to date, and that we can assist with providing roster members with up-to-date training materials, access to our LAO Law Research Department, which, for those of you who know it, is a significant benefit to those practicing legal aid, and also other tools, lunch and learns, things like that, to ensure high quality service for clients. Under LASA 2020 and the rules that accompanied the legislation, we developed a detailed framework for managing the roster lawyers that begins at the enrollment stage and proceeds all the way through to, if necessary, removal from the roster. This also, under LASA 2020, in an effort to make clear some of the steps we were taking to manage the roster, this led to the development of 3 policies under the rules. The professionalism policy, administrative burden policy, and the resignation policy. Under the rules, it sets out how we receive applications to join the roster, the prescribed forms, where those forms are to be sent, in what manner. It sets out how we assess applications and, in some instances, implement conditions if necessary. An example of a condition might be that for new lawyers, we often ask them to obtain a mentor and enter into a mentoring agreement with another individual from the roster. Another example is that occasionally we might limit the number of legal aid certificates that a roster member could take at any one time, so that the new member is given time to gain the experience that they need to ensure quality service for clients. The rules also set out expectations for quality of service, and also sets out how we can obtain information from lawyers relating to their legal aid cases to either assist with the management of the case where it's appropriate, or assist with dealing with client concerns or complaints. The rules also detail how we can suspend membership from the roster or restrict a lawyer's area of practice if needed. and or occasionally, unfortunately, removing a lawyer from the roster in very specific circumstances. Okay, so I think it's back to you, Lisa.
Thanks, Kaitlyn. Just sort of to wrap that up in a bow, the roster management, because no one ever wants to end on a, and then this is how we suspend you. I think that really, the focus, I think, for LAO and what we heard from a lot of lawyers was we want to ensure that clients are provided with the best lawyering possible on our roster. And how can we go about making sure we get lawyers that are doing the best work possible for our clients, because they're most vulnerable. And so with these tools now, we have ways to allow lawyers to come on and conditionally. We have ways to ensure people have proper training so that they can deliver services, and it allows us the tools to make sure that lawyers are able to do the work necessary to serve our clients. So it's very effective. Anyway. So another very interesting change under the new act is we now have, and it's aligned with creating a more transparent Legal Aid Services Act and ensuring that decision-making under the new act is more transparent. So we want to be transparent. It's written into our act that there is now a structure for which we do consultations whenever we are going to be proposing a change to our rules. Because as we said, the rules are now created by LAO, but in order to make sure that we're doing changes to these rules that are operationally appropriate, that are well received by the people doing the work, and are client focused, we have particular obligations on how, when and how we consult on making rule changes. And I think this is a really, really significant and interesting change in the way we do things. I think everyone that is in this world consults. I think we all have been part of consultations. We've all been consulted on. We've all done consultations because, in order to to be able to affect change, we want to, know the best way to do it. So in order to change the rules under our Section 46 rules that are made by Legal Aid, we have particular obligations on how we do it. So there is what is called the Legal Aid Ontario Section 33 public consultation policy. So it's under Section 33 of LASA 2020, and it really details how we go about it. So, and the reason I find this such a, to me, a profound change. I think we always consulted. We consulted for years and years and years. But what do you do with those consultation results? What do you do? This creates an actual structure on how we do it. And what we've set up, and I'm sorry if I'm sort of going not totally in order, Kaitlyn, if you're having a hard time with the slides, it's just all the slides under policy change, under consultations, rule changes under LASA 2020. So the way that we go about it is that, we determine when we're going to propose a change, what we have to do is we have an obligation to post that proposed change publicly and consult on it. And so there are sort of guidelines on how we do that, how we consult, and with who we consult. So what has been set up is what's called a consultation registry, and that's part of the requirement under the consultation policy. And the registry, anyone can sign up for the registry. I should have brought the actual numbers of how many people are on it, but it's easy to sign up for it. And when you do sign up for it, you can find the information on our website. When you do sign up for it, you'll receive notifications. When we are about to consult, a notification will go out in advance. So it provides a warning to people if this is coming. And the way we consult is we can choose different ways. We can either post something on our consultation website and send it to the consultation registry to all the people that have signed up with the proposed rule change. We can run town halls. there's a number of different ways that we can consult. And I think it's sort of left with us, what's the best way to do it? There are different factors that we use to determine, if it's something that we want to happen quickly, if it's a positive thing that people, we believe would be well received, we post for 30 days. If it's something that we want to target different groups, and we can do town halls with different groups, it's really, it's interesting that, it gives us a little bit of flexibility on how we do it, but we typically would post something for 30 days. And the registry would receive the proposed rule changes. And there is a consultation inbox that where we receive all the consultation feedback. And I'm lucky enough to be responsible for that inbox. It's one of my accountabilities at Legal Aid. We're responsible for leading the consultation. So we receive all the feedback and we review everything. And what we do is usually we go over, what the feedback was, and we consider it. And there's various steps I don't want to get into because we don't have that much time. But in the end, a summary of feedback is prepared, and it's posted on LAO's website. So any consultation that we conduct and receive feedback on, the summary of feedback is posted on the website. And, for transparency, I think people, are interested to read this, and they're interested to read notifications. And so it's an interesting, it's a really great framework for consulting. It gives us a lot of clarity on, how to go about proposing rule changes. I could talk about this for a long time. I'm sure you don't want to hear that much more about it, but, we have had a few consultations since LASA was proclaimed. And, one was in December of 21. It was about minimum experience requirements. There was a clinic consultation on risk level and risk management in September of 2022. And most recently, many of you will be aware of the July of 2023, we did a consultation on the proposed amendments to the fees that roster members are paid to do our legal aid work. So including increases to hourly rates and for lawyers and block fees, increasing to the number of hours on the tariff, and changes to per diem billing in accordance with tier rates. So that consultation closed in the summer, and as many of you are aware, it became effective on October 16th. We improved the compensation structure for private bar lawyers doing work in, various areas of law. It was criminal, family, child protection, and immigration and refugee. So all of that is detailed on our website, the actual changes. I'm not also going to get into like the details of every area of law and the expansion, but just at a glance, the hourly rate, tariff structure, and I think there's a slide. I have no idea if you can see it, but there's a slide for all areas, northern excluded. So over the next 3 years, there will be increases of 5% over a 3-year period to the hourly rate for each tier. And duty counsel, that anyone that does per diem duty counsel work for legal aid, we previously didn't pay by tier rate, and now under the tariff expansion, we are now paying by tier rate. And then there was also for our Northern Ontario tariff, which is there's a slide for that. There was also the 5% expansion. So, I mean, that's like, consultation in a nutshell, 101 in a nutshell. And I'm always happy to talk to anybody about the consultation framework. And also you should, if you're interested in applying to our registry, please go to the LAO website and you can sign up for it to receive notifications if you haven't already. So just very quickly, skipping over to some LAO initiatives. So, we've worked hard. We've worked hard on this act, and we've worked hard on improving service. We're doing a lot of things at LAO to try and improve and support our roster. I'm going to let Kaitlyn do like the bulk of talking on all of the initiatives, digging deep into them, but just quickly, like a quick overview, some of the things like we're really trying to work with our service providers, ensure, as I said earlier, that our clients have access to qualified, engaged, and well-trained service providers. Like we really care about that. We are working hard on improving our training. I know that many of you, or some of you, have done our domestic violence training. We had it, we've updated it now. It's just in the final stages of being updated, and we're hoping that it's going to launch in early 2024. Youth criminal mental health lunch and learns. We've been doing in the past number of months, we've been offering lunch and learns for our roster members in this area of law. We've got, expansion to LAO laws, research and training. So very quickly, I've been working closely with some of the associations and planning to do some joint sessions in the new year. And I'm sure Kaitlyn can talk about this. We're really working hard on with law schools on recruitment events to, make, to inform people about Legal Aid Ontario, the work we do, and to attract new members of the bar to provide services to our clients. So with that, Kaitlyn, I'll let you take it away.
Just before I talk about the second chair program, going back to her comments about law school recruitment, so I'm going on Tuesday actually to speak at the University of Windsor to promote, the idea of opening a practice in one of our smaller communities in Ontario, in hopefully taking legal aid and, the benefits of being a small business owner and working in communities outside of the GTA, not to throw our beloved Toronto colleagues under the bus, but as all of you, I'm sure in the room know, there are tremendous benefits to working elsewhere in the province as well. And so we're going to take this opportunity to go and hopefully promote that to certainly the students at this law school and hopefully others to come. So just in our remaining few minutes, I did want to talk about a couple of initiatives that Lisa mentioned. One of them is the Second Chair program. This is honestly an underutilized program, under-accessed program within legal aid that I think is exciting. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to talk to all of you about it. The program can actually work in two ways. So either a more experienced lawyer can be the sort of main lawyer on the file, having acknowledged the legal aid certificate, and a newer or perhaps midterm lawyer can act as a second chair on the file, or it can work in reverse. So the newer lawyer can be the main lawyer on the file, and a more experienced lawyer can get a second chair certificate. So essentially, we issue a separate second certificate to compensate the second chair on the file for the time that they are spending. And really, for young lawyers, it's a pathway or an assistance to them to gain the necessary experience to, in some instances, meet our minimum experience requirements. For example, in relation to our criminal roster, our extremely serious matters roster, so these are the very high level cases, the homicides, things like that. There are minimum experience requirements, and sometimes it can be challenging for a new or mid-career lawyer to gain those necessary experiences. And so this program is designed to try and assist and provide a pathway to doing that. So the way it works, there are two options essentially. It can be on a case-by-case basis. So when the two lawyers come to us looking for a second chair opportunity, we are interested in knowing how the hours related to the second chair certificate will be utilized. So for example, will the new lawyer or newer lawyer be responsible for a particular witness on the case, or the cross-examination of a particular witness, perhaps an expert or something of that nature? It's seen, quite frankly, as an example or as an investment, rather, by both legal aid and the younger lawyer in terms of learning and meeting their career objectives. The other option for this program is a pre-approved mentor. So the mentor can be pre-approved for a specific number of hours to essentially have a great deal of autonomy over how they use those hours, what cases they think are appropriate for mentoring, who should be mentored, and how the hours will be utilized. So I do encourage people, again, there's more information on the Legal Aid website about this, and if you are interested, please feel free to reach out to the director in your specific area to have a conversation about how these programs can be utilized. Another, obviously, program that Legal Aid runs, and probably many of you are familiar with, is our Duty Counsel program. So these are per diem lawyers that we hire to assist us with our operations in the court on a daily basis, including weekend courts. And again, if any of you in the room do this work for us, A, thank you very much, and B, if you enjoy it, please tell your friends. But it really is an excellent opportunity for young lawyers to have, you know, an immediate cash flow into their business. We pay very quickly when one acts as duty counsel. And certainly for lawyers who have experience in an area of law, some experience in an area of law, we are happy to set up shadowing opportunities for those lawyers to learn how to be duty counsel. We give them some training on using our client file management system, our data collection responsibilities, how to administer our financial eligibility tests, things like that. So again, if you're interested, we certainly encourage you to reach out either to the director in your area or to the local courthouse manager about opportunities that might be available. Because we certainly do continue to rely on the private bar to assist us, notwithstanding that we have a staff program. We certainly have a need for private bar to assist us on a per diem basis, given, you know, our many responsibilities within the courthouse environments. Okay. So then the last thing I wanted to talk about is actually our mid-case management program. The slides are more particular to the family case management program, but this is available in criminal cases as well. Essentially, where cases are going to exceed a certain dollar threshold, so in theory exceed the tariff allotments that are available and exceed a certain dollar threshold, and the dollar figures include both fees and disbursements. So, for example, if one was retaining an expert to assist with their case, and the disbursement associated with that was relatively high, you can easily see how you would get over some of these threshold amounts. So on the family side, for child welfare cases that would exceed $8,000, and on the civil domestic side, so parenting time, decision-making, things like that, for cases that would exceed $12,000, this is a program that's available where the lawyer works with managers at Legal Aid to set a budget, set a number of hours that are available for the lawyer to bill against. And it assists with providing certainty in terms of the number of hours that are available on the complex matters. So this slide just provides you with some of the key steps in this program and how it can be accessed. An important aspect of this slide is the last tab, which indicates that where people take advantage of this opportunity in this program, it is a path that is separate from our discretion requests. So once you go down the path of seeking discretion from Legal Aid, this program's not available. So it's important that it promotes an early analysis of the case so that We can work with you to set a budget and, as I say, provide certainty in terms of the number of hours that are available to work on the case. Okay, so I do encourage use of this program. Again, I think it's a bit underutilized, and it's a way to, you know, give you some certainty in terms of how the case is going to progress. Okay, so then I'm going to turn it back to Lisa, who's going to talk a little bit about the department within legal aid that she oversees.
Thank you, Kaitlyn. So we don't want to keep you that much longer, but we do want to share this one, you know, sort of just information about a sort of a newly created department, but something that we've always tried to do, but we've sort of tried to have a more coordinated approach to our external relations. That's the department that I had, and I think it was born out of a need to sort of coordinate coordinate communications across the province from Legal Aid Ontario. It's a big province, and we deliver services all over the place. And I think everyone that practices law knows that what works in one district doesn't necessarily work in the other district. What works in one court doesn't necessarily work in the other court. And what we've tried to do is pull a lot of our, stakeholder relations, external relations work, and brought it into one department so that it's coordinated on behalf of LAO, and that we can better serve the lawyers that do the work, who do provide legal services for our clients. So the department's existed for over a year. A lot of the work that we're doing now, has to do with the new legislation. We, as I said earlier, we lead the consultation work. A lot of our work is collaborating with many of you, with a lot of our justice sector participants. We do a lot of work with the Ontario Court of Justice, with the Superior Court of Justice, trying to having a coordinated approach to how we deliver services, how lawyers that do legal aid work can do the work in these courts. And so a lot of work's been done with that. What we're really trying to do is sort of bridge the Legal Aid Ontario operations, and the courts so that the courts understand, Legal Aid Ontario's perspective when they're, coming out with, guidelines for how, courts will operate. We want to make sure that the lawyers that do our work and our staff lawyers, that that things are considered when decisions are being made. So we do a lot of collaboration with the courts and a lot of collaboration with associations. We want, the work is, we're trying to have it less piecemeal. We always consider local practices. We want to ensure things that work in one area can continue to work in that area. We want to make sure that there's, things are approached in a strategic, holistic manner at the local, regional, and central levels. So a lot of work is being done there. We're also trying to have sort of one point of contact for external people, reaching into LAO. And I don't mean one point of contact. When you're submitting your bills, where you submit your bills. There's different places, but if you've got something you want, people want us to do presentations, or associations want to talk, they want to make arrangements to do things. We deal with international delegations. There's one place to contact us, and that's through external relations. I don't know if there's a slide that's showing. It didn't end up in the final presentation. So, we have an email address. It's external.relations@lao.on.ca. And that's, the one place, if you need something from the external world, you can reach us. And hopefully with that, things will, we'll be able to coordinate how we do things, how we communicate with the outside world. And, we're working hard at that. So with that, that concludes our presentation, our formal presentation. I know we're very, we've gone over, but if there are any questions that anyone has, we're happy to answer them.
Go again.
Lisa, could you hear me? Terry Brandon here.
Terry, I wish I could see you.
Oh, I don't know how to do that part. Sorry. I tried to introduce you earlier, but I couldn't see the screen and see you either. So it's nice to see you. Thank you for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Sorry for all the difficulties getting you here, though, on the other side. Kaitlyn, it was easy.
We'll take that up again.
I, I have a couple of questions, if I may. Um, Back in the day, our then executive director, Katie Robinette, and I had an opportunity and we enjoyed meeting with you. And at that time, at least, we were strongly encouraged that there were no concerns with regard to membership and the accepting of legal aid certificates. And I did hear you today, either rightly or wrongly, I think you suggested that perhaps there is a difficulty now with regard to people who are willing, lawyers willing to accept certificates, or did I misunderstand what you said? Just so I understand the current lay of the land.
I don't know if Kaitlyn wants to speak to that, or it's not an overarching, we have a problem. We're always trying to attract new people, and it depends on locations. If you ask me in Toronto, we don't, we've got lawyers doing our work. In certain areas, there are challenges in the north. Kaitlyn can speak to her area, but we're always working hard at attracting lawyers coming, you are called to the bar to take on legal aid work. I think for us, some of the challenges are because we haven't gone fully back to court, and so new lawyers don't get exposure to seeing how this work is done. It's all, a lot of it's virtual still, and so I think lawyers would learn from seeing other lawyers, and they'd hear in the corridors, oh, try this, do this. So I think there are some challenges in some areas, but Kaitlyn, you can also feel free to jump in.
Sure. So I think what we are experiencing at Legal Aid is probably relative to what's being experienced across the province. Some of the smaller communities, young lawyers are just not setting up practice. And so, obviously the bar is graying, and as people retire, we perhaps aren't seeing the newer end kind of come up to fill that void. So certainly in some of our smaller communities, and Terry, I know you're from Sarnia, and Sarnia is definitely one of those locations where it's just a matter of young lawyers are not necessarily setting up practice, and so the consequence is then we're also not seeing them take legal aid. So
Not to be difficult, our librarian tells me, continues to introduce, we have many young lawyers, more than ever in the graying of our bar in Lambton, but I do hear from the young lawyers that no one will take legal aid certificates. I don't know if we're maintaining statistics turning really to the entire province in terms of young lawyers joining and how we encourage them. I love the idea at the law school level. We were discussing that here yesterday with various programs about introducing legal aid at that level. It's important. But the question mark is here. Do you have statistics, maintaining statistics with the young lawyers? Are we seeing this decline across the province? And I did ask before the challenge with keeping senior counsel. And are we seeing an exodus now? Not retirements. I'm saying senior lawyers who are following the example of the young lawyers and simply not accepting or declining legal aid certificates. You may or may not have those statistics. If you don't, then we don't. I'm just curious.
I don't know, Terry, that we have I don't know I can't say, oh yes, we have them, or no, we don't, but I think it would be interesting to explore. I can't say with certainty. It's sort of a hard thing to say. Like, you hear narratives, you hear people talking, but I think that what we're trying to do is reach out to people and to be available to collaborate, communicate, and really work with people to ensure that, if they have concerns about doing legal aid work or what is an issue, what would they like to be addressed? We want to hear that. And so I think that's really the focus of the work we're doing. We've worked closely with the Criminal Lawyers Association on the recent tariff expansion. I think it was an excellent, example of collaboration. And so I think that I can only, you see little things on social media and but I can't say with certainty there's a mass exodus. That's not something I'm seeing, but I'd be interested in exploring it, Terry.
It's an interesting topic, and it brings us to the May survey. I have a number of questions. I'm not trying to be difficult. As the legal aid chair for the Federation of Ontario Law Associations, we're really trying to work together. We want to represent the practicing bar. The practicing bar is raising many issues with us, and you're here, and we're very, very thankful that you've come to plenary. We had a survey in May that Legal Aid put out. I stood before the plenary and encouraged council to please go forward and complete the satisfaction survey. I understood those results would be available, and I'm just wondering how we might access those results and a cross comparison to earlier years, because I know it's not something new. Those statistics, that data is available, and wondering if we could collaborate looking at that as a statistical point of view to then launch into the question about young lawyers and senior counsel.
I think that's a great idea, Terry. I don't know if the statistics are out yet on the lawyer satisfaction survey, but I know that business intelligence they work closely with our department, and I'd be happy to look into that for you. I think that's a great way. I mean, we do these surveys, we do client satisfaction surveys, lawyer, and we obviously take that. The whole point, the reason we do it is to try and improve things. So I can see if that information's available.
Please reach out, as Paula would like to work with you on that. I'm being told we've run the clock out. I know that I tried to gather some extra time for us earlier. I failed. I want to thank you for this program that you have right now for second chairs. I've heard from many lawyers, just a closing remark, sorry, Karen. I've heard from many, many lawyers who are 17 years out, 20 years out. They've been practicing, for example, criminal defense work throughout. They're ready to take on serious cases. They can do it on a private retainer. Legal aid is not allowing them to move forward with the extremely serious roster. And this second chair program, is that a mandatory step to get towards the extremely serious roster or not? And I don't really fully comprehend what the hurdles are, but I understand also at the junior level, there are so many hurdles before a young lawyer can actually engage with legal aid that it's somewhat dissuading. Rightly or wrongly, I've just heard this from young lawyers I don't personally know. So I just want to leave both of those with you for your consideration moving forward. Thank you.